You know what you have to do to get a dog certified as a service animal? You don't have to do shit.
Now, truly, where to begin? Hello and welcome back to another Molly Rambles about everybody's favorite topic on this channel, service dogs. My boyfriend recently brought a clip on the internet to my attention that was posted by Steve-O about service dogs. And you know what? I'm gonna play the clip because then I'm gonna react to it. So, roll it, Robin.
You know what you have to do to get a dog certified as a service animal? You don't have to do shit. There is no official certification. You just go online and buy a vest that says service dog. Plus, it comes with this card, which means nothing, but everybody you show it to is super impressed. But I still wanted to be above board. So I tracked down the best dog trainer there is. His name's Joseph Sinante. And I got a note from my doctor saying that while traveling, the presence of my dog is required by him. The service dog vest is the single biggest joke since the medical marijuana card. They're both totally protected by law and they both mean absolutely nothing.
Now, number one, most important, I want to say that this is a response to seeing that, but this is not an attack on Steve-O. This is not directed to him. This is a pervasive issue. We all know that the service dog certification card, vests, the miscommunication around service dog laws, ESAs, fake service dogs versus real service dogs, blah, blah, blah. It's like a very nuanced topic. It's been an issue for years. I have talked about it in my audiobook a couple years ago. I've talked about it in videos here and there, but I've not talked about it for a long time. And I feel like my opinions and perspectives on things have changed. And this video that my boyfriend played for me from Steve-O just kind of made me want to resurface this topic on my channel and talk about where I'm at with this now. Yeah, this is not, you guys know me, like I am not somebody who stands for bullying, for being mean. I do not want you to go send hate to him. I think what the world needs more of is education, compassion, empathy, communication, and I want the comment section on this video to be a place to learn, to chat to each other, to connect as per usual. So that disclaimer aside, I am not by any means like an expert on this topic. I'm simply somebody who's had a service dog myself for 17 years, who has lived in both Canada and the United States, where they have different laws for service dog users, and who has traveled internationally quite extensively through Europe, as well as to some other places with my service dogs over the years. And has traveled to many places where I've chosen not to bring my service dog for various reasons. So I'm bringing my own personal perspective and opinions, but that doesn't mean that I am the authority on this, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'm right. It's my opinion and my perspective, which has been formed from my experience. So that is what I'm here to ramble on about today, and I feel like, honestly, I learned just as much from you as I hope you learn from me, so please sound off in the comments your opinion on this. Now, truly, where to begin? Now, I feel like there are clips from Steve-O about this that are old and they've kind of like resurfaced. However, in doing a small amount of digging, he has also more recently, in the past kind of 2 to 3 months, posted other content, and this is across platforms. This clip specifically that my boyfriend showed me is from his Instagram. I have found clips on his TikTok as well as on his YouTube channel where he did a longer form video about this topic. I wasn't sure when I initially saw the original clip if it had just been edited weird and it continued and there was some like context I was missing. So I've tried to figure out and make sure I have all the context. There's still clips on the internet. I wasn't ever in person. I never saw him discuss this. I also actually have met Steve-O in the past at a VidCon many years ago, and he was a lovely dude. So I truly have like nothing against him as a person. I'm frustrated by the laws. I'm frustrated by the miseducation because it's people like me and my community who are impacted by it quite literally every day. As I've said many times, it's something that I feel is only getting worse, not better, to the point where I have friends with very significant disabilities, whether that be blindness or other disabilities that require service dogs, and have happily been service dog users who are choosing to not get a new service dog when their current one retires or when their past one retired. They have chosen to not continue as a service dog user because it has gotten that difficult. And it's gotten so difficult because of misinformation, like I feel Steve-O is sharing through these clips, whether it be intentional or not. Because I don't think misinformation is always intentionally being spread. In fact, I feel like oftentimes it's accidentally being spread without people realizing the harm. And that is what I'm gonna delve into more of in this video. So stick around if you are a little confused, because I will clarify. But it's a rambles video, okay? So it's part of the process. Being confused sometimes is part of the journey on these kinds of videos. You guys probably couldn't hear him, but LT was just making all sorts of mouth sounds, snapping that tongue around him out, settling in for a good nap. He's like, oh, my belly is full, I've had my dinnies, and mommy is rambling, which is just gonna soothe me to sleep. I love you. I'm a big comedy girl. I love stand-up comedy. I utilize comedy a lot as like a coping mechanism. And I do think that comedy can be a really great vehicle to have important conversations and educate, right? Like the juxtaposition of like making a joke, like how absurd is this? This is an issue we need to fix. And maybe there's a world in which, as again, I have not seen the full like stand-up set, that is where that joke leads. But with the way it was clipped and with some of the other content that I've seen Steve-O make around service dog laws in America, makes me concerned that instead it's more of a, this is so absurd, look how anybody could fake a service dog if they wanted to. And it's kind of, if you're the wrong person and that information is getting into the wrong hands, you're encouraging people to fake service dogs because it's so easy, instead of saying it's so absurdly easy. This is so problematic because fake service dogs are actively harming my community. And I say my community as him because he is using a service dog. I do not know what his service dog is for. So I can't say the legitimacy of that. And that's like speculating on somebody's disability is nobody's place. It's certainly not mine. So I'm not here to be like, his is a fake service dog and he shouldn't have a service dog. If he needs a service dog, that means he is disabled. And if he is disabled, then he should want to protect our community as a whole, and more specifically, the rights of service dog users. And for me, every single day, pretty much, I am questioned. And I think it's in part because I live in a very big city and I travel to a lot of very big cities. It's in part because I travel so much. It's in part because I go to lots of new locations and lots of new destinations. And I'm not like a regular at lots of places, that I get stopped and I get questioned and I have to argue and I have to state my rights. I have been screamed at the top of their lungs until I left a bar. Recently, I was out with my boyfriend and my friend Casey, and a dog that was in a service dog vest, like a golden retriever in a service dog vest, lunged at Elton in very close proximity. Like very easily could have gotten onto him, was growling aggressively and barking. It was only because I was with two-sighted people who could see that, and they stepped in to protect Elton. And this is a dog in a public space in a service dog vest. I want to make it extremely clear that service dogs, real or fake, need to adhere to a certain level of standards. And it is within a business's full legal right to kick out a legitimate service dog if they are not adhering to public access standards. Elton John, fully trained, if I'm in a restaurant, if I'm in a shopping mall, if I'm in a store, wherever, and he is acting a goddamn fool and not like a service dog, they can kick me out. And that is their right, and that's fair. I used to firmly believe that the way to protect the rights of service dog users was to create some kind of system. Because currently, here in America, let's keep in mind, laws differ in every country. So here in America, under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Why am I struggling? Anyways, the ADA law, the laws that protect those of us with disabilities living in America. Under that act, you can ask a service dog user 2 questions. Is that a service dog? What service does it provide? For me, yes, it's a service dog. He guides me. And to be a real legitimate service dog, there needs to be a disability present, and the dog needs to be trained to perform a minimum of 3 specific tasks that mitigate the impact of that disability on a regular basis. So just 3 of many that Elton would do for me is 1, be able to find me chairs.
Alicia's.
2, be able to find me the stairs. 3, be able to find me the curb.
Yes.
That's just 3. The list goes on. But they have to be able to do a minimum of 3. It is important to note that a service dog does not need to be wearing a vest, does not need to be wearing a harness. They don't need to be wearing any physical gear that indicates they are a service dog here in the United States. So, all of that in mind, many people with real service dogs do choose to put vests on their dogs. Others, like myself, require gear for the dog to be able to actually do its job. But there's like plenty of tasks that do not require gear. Plenty of reasons you might choose not to put gear on your dog. The gear does not legitimize a service dog. And in that sense, like what Steve-O's saying is true. Like in that way, like, yeah, the vest is a joke. Like it doesn't mean anything. It's nothing. In many cases, useless, other than to be a vehicle to communicate to people that it's a service dog. But it is not necessary in many cases. What legitimizes a service dog is not a piece of paper that doesn't exist in the United States, is not gear. It is the training and the need. That is what legitimizes a service dog. So I used to feel that the way to protect the rights of people like me from discrimination in businesses, to legitimize our community, to stop these fakes, it was to create some kind of certification. I no longer believe that. And that's the weird thing about being a person on the internet for as long as I've been on the internet. I've been doing this for a decade, and I don't regularly go and delete old videos of mine. So there are plenty of videos that if you watch from 5 years ago or 6 years ago or 4 years ago where I talk about the idea of wanting and needing a certification. And I've changed my mind. And I've changed my mind for a number of reasons. Number 1, just how? Like talking, like there's so much that has to go into it and so many barriers to entry. Because while many people like myself do receive dogs from facilities, many people also own or train or privately train from a private trainer. If you owner trained or privately trained, who is certifying the dog? What does that system look like? When you get it from a school, what process does the school have to go through to become legitimized and certified? Is that an additional cost to the schools, who all run by charity and fundraising? Is that an additional cost to the government? Where is that money being getting allocated from? Is that an additional cost to people who privately train or owner train? Because there's already a lot of costs they're incurring. And we know that the rate of unemployment in our community is abysmal. The government support system is abysmal, like the payment that many disabled people do have to live on. So incurring more costs would be an additional barrier to entry. Do you have to travel to a facility to get that certification? What are the standards that we're looking to have? So like there's so much that would go into that. And then is it a card that can be knocked off? That replica is just like a fake ID can be made. Is it a dog tag that's on the collar? Is it something that gets attached to our existing gear? There's so much that would have to go into it. So that's one reason. But more so than that, the bigger reason I have changed my mind is because in certain parts of Canada, there is certification, including BC, where I own my home and I have spent a lot of time living there. And I've personally been impacted by the certification program, more importantly, the lack of education around it. So essentially, in BC, there is a certification program. To be certified with your service dog in BC, you either need to have a dog from an accredited school, which the Mira Foundation is accredited. I know because I called the hotline, I talked to them, they confirmed to me that Mira is one of their listed accredited schools. The other, if you do not have a dog from an accredited school, you, from my understanding, have some sort of testing done. And then they give you a card that is the BC certification. I didn't need to get that because I have a Mira card. It is a card you get when you graduate from Mira. I'm sure a lot of other guide dog schools do the same. In our case, it has the photo of you and your dog, your name. It certifies that you graduated, that it's a legitimate guide dog. It has the law, the human rights law, and the Mira logo. It's like a credit card size. So because I have that, I don't need the BC card. However, that does not stop every business almost from asking me for the BC card. And when I show them my Mira card and explain that I don't need that BC card, a lot of them argue with me that I do, which is very frustrating and incorrect. And I've talked to the hotline many times about this, and they are frustrated for me. I've had actually them talk to businesses over the phone for me from the government number. The other aspect is that they are not supposed to even ask for the card under the law unless my dog gives them reason to suspect it is not legitimate, aka doing something like misbehaving. That does not stop them from asking me the moment I walk in the door. And it is something that I now, as a disabled person who has enough to deal with and enough to remember when I leave the front door, do I have the poop bags, the training treats, the dog, the harness, the leash? Do I have all the stuff that I need? My phone, my key, blah, 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 blah. I now also have to think, did I switch the card into this purse? Is it in my wallet? Did I grab my wallet? Like, I now have to make sure that I always have that card and I always know where it is. And that when I get in the door, the first thing I am confronted with is not, hi, we're so happy to have you come and eat at our establishment. Come and shop with us. It's, can you prove yourself? It's a combative energy. It's a negative energy. The moment I walk in a door, I need to prove my disability. I need to prove that my dog is real. It adds to my daily struggle because all of a sudden, depending on the energy, and sometimes they're really nice about it, but other times they have like a negative energy when they're asking. And it like makes me feel defensive and it makes me feel uncomfortable. And it is something that I feel I shouldn't have to do. The reality is, I don't think that that's the way to protect real service dogs. And honestly, like I, at this point, I'm at a loss for what the real way is, other than actively educating society. That means number one, making sure all businesses, especially customer service workers, are fully educated on the laws in the city, the country, the state, the province of wherever they live and work. That they are fully aware of service dogs' rights as well as the business's rights, because the businesses do have rights. Like I said, they could kick you out even if you have a legitimate service dog, if the service dog isn't acting out. And hot take, okay? This is truly, like some of you might come at me for this. I mean, some of you might already come at me for my switch up on this certification situation, but some of you really might come at me at this because this is a hot take. I admit that. I actually do not care if you bring your dog into public if it's well behaved. Couldn't care less if it's a real or fake service dog. If it is well behaved and well trained and adhering to the same public access standards as my real guide dog is, then I actually don't care because it's not interfering with my dog's work. It's not putting my dog's work at risk or me. It is not giving the public a bad image of service dogs. As long as I think it's like gross if you're putting a vest on it and passing it off as a service dog, that's gross. It's selfish. It's inconsiderate, and it's very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Selfish is a really good word.
Yeah, selfish really is the word. Like, it's just like very self-centered to be like, my needs come before the needs of others. To be honest, bringing a dog with me everywhere I go, I straight up wouldn't do it unless I needed to. I only do it because his benefits and the ways in which he makes my life better outweigh the struggles of it. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work thinking of all his needs all the time. Is it too hot outside? Do I need to find shade? Does he need water? Does he need to go to the bathroom? I need to now get up from my meal and make sure I go out and let him out. Do I have everything he needs for the day? How many hours are we going to be out? Should I pack his dinner with us? Do I have a bottle of water? Will there be water there for me to get for him? I am constantly having to work on his training, work on his skills. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work bringing a giant toddler everywhere with me. What if he gets sick? Do I have his medications with us? Like, there's so much that goes into it that I would not bring a dog everywhere with me if I didn't need to. If it was not, for me personally, the best mobility option that currently exists. But for me, it is. It suits me, my preference, my lifestyle, and my skills better than a cane does. So this is my option. and I love him. I love all my guide dogs, and they're worth the effort and the work that I have to put in. But I wouldn't bring them if I didn't have to. And the fact that some people get to, or choose to, decide when they will and won't bring their dog with them because it's convenient and fun for them is frustrating. The amount of people is always shocking to me who have come up to me over the years and been like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I have a service dog too. And it's like, they're telling me this as if I'm gonna be like, well done, good life hack, way to find the legal loophole, and congratulate them on actively harming my community. I'm not going to. And it is so awkward because it's so uncomfortable. Like every time I'm like, I don't know how to cope with this right now. But I truly only care when somebody is bringing a dog into a public environment that's acting a mess, that is acting a straight fool. If it is barking, and I want to make it very clear, if barking is a part of an alert for like medical alert, there are certain dogs who bark for medical alert, that's very different. That is performing its task. But that is not what we're discussing. If you bring your dog into Trader Joe's, we've had this happen too, and it's barking
At your service
dog, and then the staff had the audacity to approach me and ask if my dog was a real service dog. And I was like, mine wasn't the one barking. You think this giant dog had that little of a yip? No. LT doesn't even bark, period. He never barks. He doesn't make vocal noise. That was part of his training. He makes zilch, no vocal noise. Silent poochie. My dog, he is trained to ignore other dogs when he's working. So I do not care if your dog is in a public environment with my dog. He's not going to get distracted. In fact, whenever I go to like disability conferences or I'm hanging out with my blind friends, I'm around plenty of other guide dogs and service dogs. It's not a problem for me to work my dog around other dogs. It is a problem for me to work my dog around other dogs if your dog is in a service dog vest and lunging at mine, which is putting his health at risk. He could get an injury and that could end his career. He could develop a serious fear and that could end his career. And I know of service dog users who have had that happen, who have had to wash a perfectly good service dog because it got a severe injury or a severe fear it couldn't overcome due to dog attacks in public. I have a problem if your dog is acting such a fool that it is distracting my dog because it's getting up in my dog's business, sniffing it, poking at it, barking at it. I have a problem if your dog is being passed off as a service dog and clearly not acting like one, a way that our service dogs would never act, because now you're giving the public reason to question all of us, reason to speculate when they look at all of us. I don't care what you're doing with your life if it's not impacting my life. Live and let live. You do your thing. If it's not harming anybody, go off, do your thing. But if it is, that's when I have a problem. And it's people who bring dogs in public that act a fool that are the problem, whether they are in a fake service dog vest or not. That is the problem. I appreciate that Steve-O went through a process to make sure that his dog is very well trained and very well behaved, but not everybody does that. A lot of people just buy these vests and walk around willy-nilly with their pet, and they shouldn't. It's like crazy how many people ask to see the papers. Even at our gym, my boyfriend and I go to a gym nearby, they asked me for my papers so that they could scan it into their system. And I was like, do you have any other service dog, like people who attend here with service dogs? I said, yeah, we have 2 others and we scanned their papers. AKA in my mind, I'm like, okay, so the other 2 aren't real. Got it. There isn't. Like, yes, I have a Mira card, but that's not certification. That's not papers. That doesn't legitimize him, especially not here in America. And I really want to speak to management and educate them so that they know that it is illegal to ask for that. It is straight up against the ADA law to ask for papers to prove the legitimacy of a service dog. So they broke the law just by asking me. And number 2, that seeing those actually means nothing. Those papers mean nothing. Anyways, I have passionately rambled about this topic for long enough. Now I want to hang out in the comment section with all of you and hear what you have to say. So sound off below, very curious, and let's have a respectful, compassionate, open-minded, kind conversation. Okay? Until next time. You can click over here to watch my last rant about guide dog stuff, about toxic service dog culture, or you can click over here to see this other video that I've recently posted. Bye! Tell your dog I say hi.